So, this month, Rise Above It. Now, how many of you were here 4 years ago when I got up on stage on a Sunday and told you all that I had stage 4 cancer? How many of you were here? Great. So a lot of you weren't. Rise Above It came out of that experience. So 4 years ago, on March 10th, I was told that I had stage 4 cancer. And that pretty much, unless I did something about it, very drastic, which is what they were expressing for me to do, I would pretty much, this was March, I'd pretty much be done by August. That was the diagnosis. So you can imagine my reaction. Actually, you probably can't, because I laughed. My first reaction was like, oh, it's impossible, right? And then it sunk in that he wasn't kidding, since he was really serious about it. They were all very serious that day. I remember when I showed up at the doctor's office, and usually they're like, hi, have a seat, we're really busy. It was like, Mr. Mellon, can I help you? And I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed. And then they told me the news, right? So I then spent a month with my husband looking for what I wanted to do, how I wanted to deal with it. They told me the options. There were many, many different options, all pretty much the same thing, though. An operation, chemo, radiation, depending on how drastic I wanted to take it. And we spent a long time, and then I finally agreed to what I would do. And it was interesting, too, because when I came out here and had to share it, I shared it out here on Easter Sunday because that next Monday, the next day, I was in surgery. And they cut like 52 lymph nodes out of my neck. And because of that, I knew I couldn't kind of pass it off that nothing was happening. So, which I would have liked to have done, because to me, nothing was happening. It was just the perfect expression of something, and I was going to ride it perfectly. But I came out here and I explained the story. I told the story, if you all remember, of a man that I talked with that week, and this is what they were going through. And it was interesting watching everybody's reaction to that, because pretty much everybody was like, oh, that's a sad story for that man. And then as soon as I said the man was me, there was a literal gasp, because it was personal, because we put it on someone that we cared about, I assumed, right? And yet, our minds are conditioned to stay impersonal at all times in order to be able to know the truth about something and not get involved in our personality. When it's not me, you can know the truth and go, well, you're right, that man will survive. That man will do exactly what he needs to do. And so it is. When it was me, it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I knew that was a possibility for an outcome because I didn't want that energy coming at me or for me at all. And this congregation was spectacular, supporting me during those 4 months, that whole summer, during everything, spectacular. And it was not the most pleasant ride, the joyous ride, but I learned a lot from it, and I will never, ever have to experience it again. That I'm sure of. But there was the day before I went in for surgery or something, before I started chemo. And I was at the doctor's office, and he was looking at taking the stitches out. And when I was there, Dr. Alessi said to me, he said, what are you talking about this Sunday? Oh, actually, no, it was before this operation. He said, what are you talking about this Sunday? And I said, well, the title of my talk's going to be Rise Above It. And he went, clever. He was like, that's a good idea. And then he went off into another office while we were doing something, and he had a patient, a little old lady, a little woman, and who had everything taken out, and she spoke through a hole in her neck. And he went into her room and told her about my story, and that I was giving a talk on Sunday called Rise Above It, and that she needed to rise above everything that was happening to her. And he kind of used my talk when he went into the next office. And I was at the desk signing out, and the woman came out, and I still get very emotional. She came towards me, and I turned around, and all I could see was this tiny little, very thin woman with the thing, and she went, Rise Above It, out of her throat. And Kevin and I were literally speechless. And she said, this is where it really got me, and she said, you rise above it. And I got it. She was saying, okay, I will too, but you need to take your own advice and rise above it. It was a very powerful moment, and we talked about it all the way home. The song lyrics, I'm not there yet, but I will be. I don't live in the world of will be, because I tend to think that if we think this will happen later, that we put it into the mind that it will happen later, and it just stays later at all times. But there is a consciousness of will be that is I am. And I know in that moment, I said to myself, I will be healthy as I get through this, and I will stay healthy all the way through it. The will be was not I will be someday, it's I am now, and I will stay this way. And I think that's what this song is about. I will be everything I am right now, and I will stay this way. I will hold this line. I will use, I loved your analogy, that cement, that quake cement. You know, a quake cement is there so that no matter what the earthquake does, your things are supposed to stay in place. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But that's what spiritual mind treatment does. That's what this one sentence does. Remember who you are. There's your earthquake cement. There's your cement. By remembering who you are, everything stays in place. You know, I will be healed can sometimes mean someday I'll be healed. But I will be healed throughout everything is also an affirmation, a strong affirmation. So, another lyric from the song, I could choose to keep my feet on the beaten path and never cross the open field for that one snake in the grass. But I'd rather risk my heart than to never get the chance to find my way because I'm not afraid. The title of my talk today is Fear of Snakes. Anybody else have a fear of snakes out there? I know Connie does because she shared it in class, right? Fear of snakes. So I have a little story for you. I love taking pictures of me. I do. I love taking pictures of me with whatever I'm doing. I just love to do that. Of me, my husband, my children, you, if you're with me. I just love a lot of selfies. I love to take pictures wherever I am and send it out into the world and show everybody. Look, here's where we are. Facebook has made that so easy, hasn't it? Look, I'm eating. Look, I'm walking down the street. Look, anyway. So, I love to take pictures. So, the first time Kevin and I came to California, we went to Joshua Tree because I was seeing a counselor at the time who told me I needed to go to Joshua Tree to experience the sacred, spiritual energy of Joshua Tree. And I remember we got to Joshua Tree. Now we're from the East Coast at the time. We get to Joshua Tree and I'm like, this is the ugliest place I've ever seen. Didn't I? I was like, and we both did. We were like, this is the beautiful. This is a forest. It's like shrubs. Just lots of shrubs. And so I said, well, we're here. Took a long time to get here. So we drive in. It was fascinating. About 20 minutes in, since all there were shrubs, and these big Joshua trees that looked like something out of the Wild Wild West, and then all the rocks, all of a sudden it hits you. And you were like just overwhelmed with the spiritual, divine nature of all of this. And it was suddenly the most beautiful place we'd ever been to. We've been back many times. But on this first trip, I said, I gotta get a picture. I get out of the car, and I see this big formation of rocks. I said, I'm gonna climb to the top of the rocks. I want you to get down near the rocks and take a picture of me at the top of the rocks, and I'll do my usual big, I'm a king of the hill. And so Kevin does, right? And I climb up the rocks, and I'm up at the top. I said, and I look down, and Kevin's like freaked out about something. I'm like, honey, just take the picture. He's like, don't move. I was like, I'm not going to move. Take the picture. No, don't move. I said, why? He said, just look right below you. I had run across a snake nest, rattlesnakes, and they had now gone all the way around the rock, and I'm on the top of it. And I have an amazing fear of snakes. I mean, amazing. I mean, it's amazing that I didn't just pass out and fall into them. And I'm just standing there, and we're hearing all these little rattles, and Kevin's down there, and I'm like, what should I do? And Kevin's like, don't move, just stay there. I said, well, take the picture anyway. So I'm like up there for like, I don't know how long I was up there, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and I just remember they were sort of like calming down, and I like start to step down. I got to tell you, my entire body is just like in like cold. I'm like cold. I'm freezing. I'm like shaking like anything. I climb down, and just as I take like one step, you hear, I'm back up. How long do you think I stood there? About an hour? About an hour. Yeah. And I'm just standing there, and it's really hot. It's Joshua Tree, so it's really hot. And of course I have no sunscreen on because I had not planned on going out and sunbathing on a rock. And so I stood up there until finally I had to just come down. And I came down and I walked, and I could see them scurrying, and I just came down and I walked through. And now you might think that I'm going to tell you, and then I had no fear of snakes after that. No, I needed therapy after that. I needed to go talk to a shrink and say, I can't live anymore. I can't walk. Everywhere I go, there's snakes. Right? No. So wait, this gets better. So we get in the car, and we drive. Remember this? We drove just a little way, and Kevin hits the brakes, and there is this huge rattlesnake. Huge! Like staring up at the car with its head coiled at us. I'm really telling you everything here. And Kevin goes, oh my God. I said, just run over it! And Kevin's like, James, you can't run. I said, run over the rattlesnake! I said, you're supposed to cut its head off, then it can't hurt you. And Kevin's like, I am not killing a rattlesnake. We are in the car, it can't hurt us. I was like, okay. So it sort of went behind us, but here's the funny part. We kept going, and somehow it went under our wheels, and we did run over it. It was sad, really sad, because the world needed another rattlesnake. So, here's the thing about that. Do you remember that? That was a lovely day. And the funny thing is, I didn't think to take pictures of the rattlesnakes. I just wanted to get in that car and get out of that Joshua Tree in that particular trip. Here's the funny part of that. It's all funny now, looking back on it. I still think I have a fear of snakes. There is an old habitual thought inside of me that says, I have a fear of snakes. So much so that just recently, when I was on a walk up in the Fryman Canyon, I was by myself going to my tree, and I walked through a little, you have to climb up this hill. I climbed up this little hill, and I hear this snake go running past me. And my heart, went into my throat. And I was like, ah! I was like, really? Really? And I looked at it, and it kind of just looked at me and then went away. And you know what I did? True story. I started walking through the grass thinking, let me hit a couple snakes. Let me just let them know that I'm not afraid of them and that they're one with me and I am one with the snakes. So last Monday in practitioner class, Connie Milner talks about that she's in her house and she's always telling her whole family that, we must learn that we are one with all things. We are one with all things. And then one day, apparently, last week or so, Connie, are you in here? She's somewhere listening to this. There's a snake in the middle of her living room, and she ended up on top of the couch screaming. Where? Lizard. Oh, it was a lizard. Yeah. Okay. And she's screaming, get it out of here! And apparently her family came in and went, aren't we supposed to be one with all things? And I think the answer was something like, yes, I'm one with it, but it can be one out there where it's not me. So the thing is, what fears, what things do you have that you have that you can rise above? Because guess what? We can rise above anything, seriously, by knowing who we are. When we get, when they talk about snake whisperers and dog, I have these two turtles that Nora bought when she was 3 years ago. She bought them like this, they're now like this. They're killer turtles. They are. Whenever they see me, they just want to kill me. Is that not my experience with these turtles? Yeah, Nora sees them and they're like, they make these little noises. I come in the room and like, seriously. And I'm the one that feeds them and takes care of them. And when I have to clean the turtle bowl, I have to take them out of the turtle. Well, I have been really good about it. It's been no problem. Somehow lately, I've just gotten afraid of these turtles. They've gotten bigger. So I had to clean them on Friday. And I went into the bowl and they both looked up at me and I was like, I'm not taking you out. I will let you live in this dirt. And I'm just having this attitude, and I'm trying to get them, and every time I do, they turn their head toward me, and I jump. I was like a little girl, standing in this room. Now, no offense to girls, because maybe you're stronger than I am. Finally, I just went, what is going on here? What am I afraid of? What is causing this reaction to these turtles, to snakes, to lack, to prosperity? What is it that we have? What reaction do we have? Where does it come from? It's a fear of something, isn't it? What was my fear? I was afraid that this turtle was going to bite me. How hard can a turtle bite? Let me tell you. Because it bit me. I went in, and I went to pick it up, and it bit me. It did not break my skin. I wasn't bleeding. I looked at it, and it looked really sad that it bit me. It looked shy. And I went, "Oh, you're sorry you bit me, aren't you?" I said, "I get it. You were just kind of saying hello, or you're just connecting with me and didn't know how to connect with me because you have a fear of me. You're afraid of me, even though I feed you every day. You're afraid of me." So then I just reached my hand in. It did not pick its head up. I picked it up, and I put it over there. Now, you would think that's the end of the story. No, because apparently its friend didn't get the message. Because when I reached in for the second one, it bit me. And again, I didn't bleed. And I looked back. It was not shy. It was like, "Try it again." And I went, "You know what?" And I just went in, reached and put it over there, and it didn't have time to bite me. I was like, wow. So there are instances where maybe the other part doesn't get the message, but I did. So I rose above it by reaching in and grabbing it and just doing it, not thinking about what's going to happen on this end. I'm the director of this story. You see the difference? I can learn, and then it can learn, and then together we can copacetically, lovingly move through life and bevel our foot. Or I can just know this is the way it is, and so it is. You can still be ornery and... So that's the way we must treat our thoughts. That's how we have to treat our beliefs, our habits, even the things that seem to have a hold over us. Do y'all get this? It's my talk about reptiles, so there you go. Washington Irving said, "Little minds are tamed and subdued by misfortune, but great minds rise above them." So what is going on in your life? What is there in your life that you feel has risen above you? Is there a condition, is there something going on in your life that you feel is above you and that you can't quite seem to get it, to deal with it, to tame it, to be one with it so much so that you can allow it to diffuse itself in your life? If there is, I would ask you to really give a great, great amount of time and thought to who's behind everything you think. Who's behind every belief you have? Who's behind everything that goes on in your mind? Because the answer to that is the same for all of us, and that is God, the divine energy, the essence of truth in all of us. That's who we are. That's who's picking up the turtles. That's who's looking at the snakes. That's who's dealing with every condition. And to the degree that you run away from your conditions, it's because you don't know who you are. Or avoid them. There was a brilliant blog on CPR this morning about someone who really, really looked at what they believe about money. And they wrote some really harsh things about what they believe. And then they wrote right after it, "And is it possible that my writing this down is the first step to eradicating this out of my life?" Hell yes. That's what we have the capability of doing. Not running away from the turtle, but actually taking a moment, getting a clear understanding of it, and just moving it aside. Move it out of the way, whatever it is. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but is rising up every time we fail." So let me ask you, how do you treat yourself when you seemingly fail at something? What do you do in your mind? Do you berate yourself? Do you take yourself down in an estimation of who you are? If you're having a hard time, you're having a challenge with whatever in your life, do you suddenly feel less than? Because here's the opportunity. Here's the challenge. Rise above that. And I'm so glad I got to teach the thought exchange, because it has so moved my mind into understanding how this works at an even deeper level. It doesn't mean you won't have challenges, and it doesn't even mean you won't be really upset by the challenges. That's not a problem. Feel what you need to feel. Don't pretend you're not upset that you're broke. It's like, I have no money and I'm just perfect. All my bills, I have all these bills, I'm credit card debt up to my ears, and I don't care. Life is God, I am God. No. It's like, that really bothers me. But within the feeling of what it is I'm feeling, I still know the truth. That's the deal. If you're standing on top of the mountain and you stay there for the rest of your life because the snakes live there and they're not moving, What good are you? You're stuck on top of a rock in a forest of shrubs. What good are you to the universe? But I was still shaking like a leaf when I walked down through them and made it through them, and then we killed one. That's the goal. That's the thing. Can you know who you are, feel what you feel, and still keep walking? Anybody else afraid of snakes? Yeah. Now, are you still afraid of snakes? Yes, good. I'm doing a good job here. Okay. Norman Vincent Peale wrote this: stand up to your obstacles and do something about them. I love that saying. Stand up to your obstacles and do something about them. Do you know what the first thing you can do about your obstacles? Notice them. Absolutely notice them. Honor them, respect them, get it. Here's my obstacle. I still think this about me. And then, what's the truth about that? What's the spiritual truth about that? What's the spiritual logic about that? He says, stand up to your obstacles and do something about them. You will find that the obstacles haven't half the strength you think they have. Think about that. Whatever these challenges are, whatever obstacles come your way, they don't have half the power than the person who created them in the first place, which is you. And that's the other side. Do we blame ourselves because we actually come to understand that we've created the world we live in? We shouldn't do that. We should not blame ourselves for creating them. We should know I have the ability to create something else. So this month, you have an opportunity to rise to every occasion. In everything that shows up, you can rise above it. You know you're at choice every time. When something happens in your life, something comes up, you are at choice. You can choose the good witch, you can choose the bad witch. And bad meaning it doesn't serve you. You can choose something that is filled with ease, love, grace, power, peace, beauty, joy, light. Or you can choose fear, doubt, concern, uncertainty, worry. I love when I do CPR because right at the top of CPR we talk about how worry accomplishes nothing. Worry expands whatever it is you're worrying about. So you're always at choice. So this month, and I love what Mary said, yeah, keep that card. I have it in my car. Whenever I get in the car, I see the affirmation, I read it. This month, you get to rise above it. Rise above every single condition that comes along. Every single conversation, like Mary said, something goes on in the back of your head. Choose the truth. Choose to remember who you are in every chance. This month, I want you to recognize where the power is. This month, I want you to really look right into the face of that snake, whatever that snake is for you, and become the snake charmer that I know you are. I want you to be able to look into every single situation, every person, every place, everything, and know who's looking. Remember who's looking. Don't let your conditions rise above you. You need to rise above them. And when I say rise above it, I mean to take that which you are, fill yourself so full of it that when you are in any situation, you never forget who you are. And you have not only risen above it, you have become it because that's who you are. Namaste.